Good day, everyone. By the way, I am HazelKaye Martinez, together with Miss Morias and Mr. Montero. So I will be going to discuss about assessment tools for each level of learning outcomes. So we'll be talking about something called KPU, or knowledge, process, and understanding learning outcomes. So basically, this means that when students learn something, there are three things they need to be able to show in order to prove that they really understand it. So these three things are knowledge, which means just knowing the information. Process, which means being able to use that information in a practical way. And understanding, which means having a deeper meaning or perspective on the information. So, if a student can show that they have all of these things, knowledge, process, and understanding, then they have achieved the learning outcomes. So, there are different ways for teachers or evaluators to check whether students have achieved these outcomes, using different tools depending on what level of education the students are. Next, types of tests to measure knowledge, process, and understanding. First, objective. Objective test. Next, pencil and paper test. Next, simple recall. So, in other words, the different types of tests that measures knowledge, process, and understanding. So, the first type is called objective test, which only required one correct answer. So, these are difficult to create but easy to check. So, the example of an objective test is a pencil and paper test, where the questions are written on paper and answered using a pencil. So, however, when the modern technology, so this type of test can also be done electronically, making it paperless. So, the objective tests are a type of assessment that measures your knowledge or skills in a specific subject area. So these tests typically have multiple choice questions. So where where you choose the the correct answer from a list of options. So the word objective means that there is only one right answer to each question, and it can be graded easily by a computer or other automated system. So, for example, if you were taking an objective test on math, you might see questions like what is 2 plus 2, or what is the square of 144. In these cases, there is only one correct answer, 4 and 12 respectively, and no room for interpretation. So, objective tests are often used in schools to assess student learning and progress. So, they can also be used in job interviews or certificate exams to measure someone's knowledge or qualifications. So, while they may not provide us much insight into critical thinking skills or creativity as other types of assessments, objective tests can still be very useful or for measuring basic knowledge and understanding in a particular subject area. So, next, simple recall. So, simple recall is, so the most common tools for this called simple recall There are different types of tests that fall under simple recall, such as fill in the blanks, identification, enumeration, and just plain old simple recall. So, fill in the blanks means you have to fill in missing words or phrases from a sentence or paragraph. Identification involves picking out specific things related to the topic being tested on, like identifying important dates or names. Enumerations, it requires listing items related to the topic being tested on in order. So lastly, simple recall, it means simply remembering information without any prompts. So the overall, these different types of simple recall tests can help measure someone's knowledge on a particular subject by testing their ability to remember important details and concepts related to it. So next, alternative response test. And this is the type of pencil and pencil test where two options or choices are provided. The items can be stated in a questions or a statement form. Examples of these are true or false example. The Philippine population has reached 1 million. Yes or no example. Has the Philippine population reached 1 million? So, so the alternate so the alternative response test is a type of test where you can give in or two options or choices to choose from. So so for example, one options could be true and the other is false. Or one option could be yes and the other is no. The purpose of this test is to measure your ability to make decisions based on limited information. An example of questions might be, has the Philippine population reached 1 million? And you would select either yes or no as your answer. Next, multiple choice test. So, multiple choice test, this is the type identified as the most versatile test type because it can measure a variety of learning outcomes. So it consists of a problem and a list that correct alternative is called the of suggested solution. The answer, while their remaining options is incomplete statement or direct or choices are called distractors. So question is called STEM. The distractors or decoys, some listed of suggested solutions in multiple choice items are presented words, numbers, symbols, or with a stimulus material. Phrases are called alternatives, options, or choices. There should be the three to five options in each item. So the overall multiple choice tests are great tools for measuring knowledge on various topics due to their versatility and ability to offer several potential solutions in one question. Next, correct answer type. Other alternatives are clearly wrong and only one is the correct answer. This can be constructed in either direct question or completion of this sentence. Examples, direct question, what is not a member of Asian? 2015 economic community? A. Vietnam, B. Korea, C. Malaysia, D. Philippines. Next, incomplete sentence. A country is Southeast Asia which is not a member of the Asian 2015 economic community is A. Vietnam, B. Korea, C. Malaysia, D. Philippines. So, in other words, the correct answer type, this this is the type of question that can be presented in two ways, either as a direct question or as an incomplete sentence that needs to be completed with the correct answer choice. For example, the first way would look like this: what is not a member of Asian 2015 economic community? Then there would be four possible answers listed: Vietnam, Korea, Malaysia, and Philippines. Only one of these answer would be correct. So the second way would look like this: a country in Southeast Asia which is not a member of the Asian 2015 economic community is blank, and again there would be four possible answers listed: Vietnam, Korea, Malaysia, Philippines, with only one being correct. So these types of questions are often used in quizzes or exams to test knowledge on specific topics. So it is it's important for test takers to carefully read each answer choice before selecting their final answer to ensure they choose the right options. Next, best answer type. All alternatives are correct, but only one is the best. Direct questions. What do progressive educators consider as the most important factor in the teaching learning process? A. Teacher, B. Learner, C. Books, D. Principal. Then, the incomplete sentence, according to progressive educators, the most important factor in teaching learning process is A. Teacher, B. Learner, C. Books, D. Principal. So, I will be explaining this. The best answer type. So, the question is asked what progressive educators as the most important factors in this process, and the answer choices are A. Teacher, B. Learner, C. Books, or D. Principal. So this is the best answer type questions where all of the options are valid factors but only one is considered to be the best answer according to progressive educators. So to answer this question correctly, we need to understand what progressive educators believe about teaching and learning. According to them, the most important factor in this process is not necessary in any one person or thing like a teacher or book, but rather it's an approach that focuses on student-centered learning. So this means that learners take an active role in their own education by engaging with material based on their interests and needs. So the teacher act more likely facilitators who guide students towards discovering knowledge for themselves rather than just lecturing at them. So ultimately, option B, learner, would be considered the best answer by progressive educator as it emphasizes placing importance on empowering students through personalized learning experience. Next, the matching type test. So, and matching type test, these are the relationship that can be used in matching type test. So, there are many variation of matching type tests that can be used depending on what kind of information needs to be tested. So, there are some example included matching type or pictures with their descriptions or matching vocabulary words with their definition. So the overall matching type tests are an effective way to assess someone's knowledge and understanding while minimizing guesswork and ambiguity in responses. So the first category mentioned is persons. So this means you could have a listed less rather of names and need to match them with their corresponding professions or accomplishments. For example, if one name was Albert Einstein, you would need to match him with being a famous scientist. Next, their achievements. This means you could have a list of accomplishments and need to match them with the person who achieved them. For example, if one achievement was winning an Olympic gold medal for figure skating, so you would need to match it with the name of the skater who won. Then, next, the dates. It refers to specific dates like birthdays or historical events that can also be matched with corresponding information. Next, historical events. It goes beyond just dates, includes significant occurrences throughout history such as wars or inventions. So, the other examples include terms paired with definitions like vocabulary quizzes, principles match up with illustrations such as diagrams showing how something works, parts paired with functions like cars, parts and what they do, machines match up with the use like tools found at home improvement stores, disease paired up causes, what caused someone to get sick. So the overall, these are just example of what kind of things might be included in matching type tests. So next, perfect matching type. Example, perfect matching type, the number of premises in column A is less than the number of responses in column B. The response can only be used once. Example, in column A are popular descriptions of presidents during their term of office. Much then with the names of Philippine presidents in column B. Column A premise. 1. Ramon Magsaysay. 2. Carlos P. Garcia. 3. Corazon Aquino. In column B, responses. A. Man of the masses. B. People power president. C. Filipino first policy. D. Champions of first land reform law. So perfect so perfect matching type, this means that in column A there are fewer premises that number of responses in column B. Each response can only be used once. So to give an example, let's say we have popular descriptions of Philippine presidents during their term of office in column A. And the names of Philippine presidents in column B, the, so the description might include things like man of the masses or champions of first land reform law. While the names of would include people like Ramon Magsaysay or Corazon Aquino, in this scenario we need to match each description with its corresponding president name from column B. However, since there are more names than descriptions, some names will not be used at all. So this type of matching activity can be useful for testing knowledge on different topics or for reinforcing concepts learned in class. So it requires careful reading and attention to the data to ensure that each premise is correctly matched with its corresponding response without repeating any responses. Next, imperfect matching type. The number of premises in column E are not equal to the number of the responses in column B, or the other way around. The response or the premise can be used more than once. Example, in column E are names of well-known curriculum evaluators. Match them with the evaluation models they have been identified within column B. You can use the letter once or more than once. Then these are the column A and column B. So so I will be explaining the type of matching activity called imperfect matching. This means that the number of items in one column does not match the number of items in other column. So in this case, column E has 5 curriculum evaluators listed and column B has 4 evaluation models listed. The goal is to match each evaluator with the correct model they have been associated with. So you can use a response or premise more than once if needed. So for example, Michael's scriven could be matched with both and consumer-oriented model and responsive model if those are both correct answers for him. Next, subjective test. Learning outcomes which indicate learners' ability to originate and express ideas is difficult to test through objective type tests. Hence, in a subjective type test, answer through reflection, insights, and opinion can be given through essay. So, in other words, the subjective test, it means to test the measures a person ability to come up with their own ideas and to express them. It so it can be hard to measure this through objective tests like multiple choice questions. So subjective tests are used instead. So in these types of tests, people can give answer that shows their thoughts, opinions, and reflection by writing essay. So basically, it's a way for people to show what they know in their own words. Next, essay. Essay test items allow students the freedom of response. Students are free to select, relate, and present ideas in their own words. The type of answer would reflect the extent of the learner's knowledge of the subject matter, ability to use higher order thinking skills, and express ideas in accurate, creative, and appropriate language. So in other words, these types of tests allows students to have the freedom to respond in their own words. So this means that they can choose what ideas they want to write about and how they to present them. Essentially, it's like writing an essay for a class assignment or homework. So, easy test items are different from other types of tests because they don't have multiple choice questions or short answer questions with specific answers. So instead, students must think critically and creatively in order to come up with their own responses based on what they know about the topic being tested. So, this type of testing can be beneficial for both students and teachers because it allows for more individualized learning experience. So, the students can showcase their unique perspectives and understanding of the material. So while teachers can gain insight into each student's thought process and level of comprehension. So overall, the easy test items provide a way for students to express themselves freely through writing while also demonstrating their knowledge and a particular subject matter. Next, restricted response test. Rather restricted response item. So, this is like an expanded type of objective test. There is a limit on both the content, scope, and the form of student response. It is most useful in measuring learning outcomes that required the application of data in specific area. Examples. First, what are the main body parts of plant? Describe each part. 2. Why is the barometer one of the most useful instruments to forecast the weather? Explain in one paragraph. So the restricted response item, this means that this type of question limits the content and form of the student's answer, but still requires them to demonstrate their knowledge and ability to think critically. For example, of this type of question is asking students to describe the main body parts of a plant and explain each part. So another example is asking why a barometer is useful for forecasting weather in one paragraph. So the restrictive response items are helpful for measuring learning outcomes that requires applying specific data or knowledge in a particular area. So this question can help assess how will students understand and can apply concept they have learned. Next, extended response item. The student is generally free to select any factual information that can help in organizing the response. The contents of an extended essay will depend on the analysis, synthesis, evaluation, and other higher order thinking skills of the test takers. Examples. First, evaluate the significance of the result of national referen- referendum of Scotland to the global peace condition. 2. What can you say about n- natos or NATOS position on the ISIS or ISIS. 3. Comment on the term new normal that refers to the environmental condition and climate change. So the extended response items in in other words that extended response items to the students are given in the freedom to select in factual information that can help organize their response. So we have it will depend on their ability to analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information using higher ordering thinking skill. For example, if a student is asked to evaluate the significance of the result of national referendum of Scotland to the global peace condition, they may need to gather facts about the political situation in Scotland as well as its impact on other countries and international relations. So similarly, if a student is if asked about NATO's position on ISIS, they would need to research NATO's policies towards terrorism and how it relates specifically to ISIS. So lastly, if a student is asked to comment on the term new normal, it referring to environmental condition and climate change. They would need knowledge about climate change trends and how it affects our environment today. So overall, the extended response items, it requires students not only recall but also apply critical thinking skills. So, so by analyzing the data or information which makes them more prepared for future challenges beyond academic settings. So this is end of my report. Let me call on Mr. Montero. We'll be discussing about type of essay that measure complex learning outcomes. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so a pleasant day everyone. By the way, I am Btw Montero and I will be going to discuss about the types of essay that measure complex learning outcomes. So in the types of essay test item, there are two types. The first one is restricted response essay items and the second one is extended response essay items. And the first type of essay, restricted response essay items, it is something or something ability to explain about the cause to effect relationship and describe application the principles and formulate the valid conclusion and enumerate and explain and also explain methods and produce or something this kind of essay. It is something have format and also by the teacher or instructor should be followed by his or her student. And in the extended response essay items, it is something ability to organize ideas to integrate learning and decide experiments and evaluate the work of ideas. Okay, in the extended response essay item, it is something that have to produce a new one or something, a new one that connected from the past or something from historical, something that to be part in the recent or the current era. On the other hand, or overall the types of essay, it is something that helpful method to the students to measure about um, their capacity to understand what the teacher or instructor discussed. And now we're gonna move to the assessment tools to measure authentic learning performance in the product K-pop. In this one, we have first tools checklist. It is tool that consists of list of qualities that are expected to be observed as a present or absent. So for the instance of this, like the teacher was um, on the checklist, um, on the use of microscope have a 10 points. So observe the students in the laboratory activity with a use microscope. So in the items, it should be check the items which you have seen, which were you done, or something appropriate that you've got what wanted you so. And a second one is mark X items which were not appropriately done. Okay, so this kind of example that you will mark as check or something, you will put or X or something a check and that. And now in the second performance assessment tools is a rating scale. Rating scale is a tool that uses a scale a number line as a basis to estimate the numerical value of a performance or a product. The value is easier to score if the points are in whole numbers. The most popular rating scale is called Likert scale. So for the instance of this, a rating scale for a science project, for the instruction, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with a 1 as the lowest and the 10 is the highest score. Rate the project on the following elements. Circle the choice of your answer. So in this kind, or in this part, in this portion rather, there's have something, an information, also the numbers in the other side. Okay, you may rate or something, you may circle in that part. So is it something, this kind of tool was easy to rate about the project? And this is how the curricularist or something instructor or teacher they rate about the project using by this kind of tools. And now in the last performance assessment tools is the rubrics for portfolio. The rubrics for portfolio is a compilation of the experiences as authentic learning outcomes presented with evidences and reflections to assess the total learning experiences and presented in a holistic package. An assessment tool called rubric is utilized. So for the instance, suggested rubric for the field study course portfolio. So there are something, a criteria and also the description and numerical value. And the criteria, the contents of the portfolio, you may check about that on how the contents is something fundamental, and also the objectives of the portfolio and the quality of interest and the presentation of interest and the promptness. So in the criteria you may have this kind of 5 entries, and in the description numerical number, there's something to tell you about description or something, how the percentage is something rate about the project. And now we're gonna move to the levels of assessment for the level of learning outcomes. So the level of assessment is also the description of levels of the learning outcomes, which are knowledge, process or skills, understanding, and products or the performance. So the level of learning outcomes are also used to describe the levels of assessment. Through the DepEd Order 73 series of 2012, levels of learning outcomes are also the levels of assessment. In other words, the levels of assessment follow the level of thinking skills from the lower level to higher level. On the other hand, this kind of level is something that you will, as a curricularist or something, a teacher or instructor, you will need to follow about the level assessment. If your students was in higher level, so you may go on higher level or level assessment. And also if it's lower, you may go on the lower assessment. Okay, for the instance of this, like this, in the levels of outcomes or the assessment, in the level 1 you have something in knowledge, level 2 process skills, and level 3 is understanding, and level 4 the products or performance. So what to test assess? It is something who, what, when, and how. And in the level 2, constructed meaning of knowledge. So in that kind, how the levels of assessment for the levels of learning outcomes measured or something rate um, by the instructor or the teacher. And now we're gonna delve to the use of level of assessment in the classroom for a summative test. A illustrative example for a summative test in the third reading period in elementary science grade 6. Ms. Portia Bala will prepare a periodical test for the first quarter lesson. This will be a summative test that will cover knowledge, process, skills, understanding, and products or performance. According to the DepEd Order 73 Series 2012, the distribution of items should cover and achieve learning outcomes. So for every grading period, a summative test is constructed to help in the test construction. A table of specification or TOS is developed. So in this portion, TOS should reflect the levels of learning outcomes provided. An example is shown below. So we know that as level of assessment, so it's have or there's a knowledge also about the process, understanding of the product. And for the tools objective test again have a 25 to both 25 highest scores, and also the rubrics or rating scale plus 20, and objective test or essay 30%. So and the weights about the knowledge is 15, and also in the process have 25, and the rest objectives and rubrics, and the weights is 30% equivalent to 100% about for the grading um, the students. And now in the sample metrics of a periodical summative test result in the third quarter, as what I've example earlier about the Miss Portia. Example of the name is Anna Padilla, performance in the test. So and his or in here grading or something, the earn score by Anna about this, or what Anna's points that she got. Okay, so she had 94 in the total value of Anna's score in the last portion in the 94.99% composite score or something. She had a grade that 94.9 as what I've shown in this slide. You may notice about the how the instructor or something, the teacher or the curriculist rate this kind or something, give and grades to his or her student. And now we're gonna delve into the placing value to assessment result for KPAP. Okay, and now we're gonna delve into the placing value to the assessment result from KPAP or the grading system. So the four levels may be employed in the formative assessment, but the result is not recorded. It will just tell how the students are progressing. On the other hand, the KPOP format is required for the summative assessment, which are recorded for the grading purposes. The compute value of the four levels of assessment will be described according to the value of the composite score of the students. So in the interval scale of compute, four levels learning outcomes are given in a label proficiency description. This interpretation is used for all learning areas or subjects in basic education. So levels of proficiency description as what have you saw on this slide, the beginning and also developing and approaching proficiency and proficient and advanced. This is how the curriculist or teacher measured the level of student So in the composite and summative grade, so 74 below, 75. So that's how they rate about the students, how the teacher students know about the capacity to understand what they discuss or what the topic, the something that really interesting or something that really get by the students um, in their field. So in this slide, when use, it is something a continuation about in the interval scale. Okay, when when used as a tool for the formative assessment, the teacher will be guided by the level of proficiency of each learner. So those remediation can be done immediately before going to the next school quarter or school level. Using Anna's composite score of 94.9 means that her label proficiency is advanced. Is what I have used, or what I tell you in this slide. Okay, so we know that for the instance of the level of proficiency description, Anna's grade was 94, so it should be 90 above. So she is on the advanced knowledge. Okay. Okay, so to conclude about our topic for the evaluating, or our topic for the conclusion, the curriculum evaluation through learning assessment. Um, to sum up, okay, and to sum up about our topic for this day, um, the curriculum evaluation through learning assessment is a critical process in the field of education that aims to enhance instructional effectiveness and measure student achievements. By assessing the curriculum, educators can gather valuable information about the strengths and weaknesses of the instructional materials and teaching method used. So this assessment allows for an information decision-making process regarding any necessary modifications or improvements to be made to ensure optimal students' learning outcomes. So that will be all. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep safe po kayo lagi.